I'm Suzanne Harrison, a volunteer with the Community Foundation and specifically the Behavioral Health Committee, which has been the driving force behind the launch of this website. As many of you know, this has been a long time coming and has finally come to fruition with the help of so many of you. As editorial director for Let's Talk About It New Canaan, I've had the opportunity to participate in providing this incredible centralized resource for our community. I grew up in New Canaan and returned to raise my children here because we all know New Canaan is a truly special place. But as special as New Canaan is, we are not immune to the behavioral health and substance misuse challenges that are ever present even in our town. 1 in 5 people will be affected by some behavioral health challenge over time. And with the website, we are connecting neighbors in support of one another to reduce stigma, remove shame, and prevent isolation. We're pleased today to welcome a few New Canaan residents and partners to share more about the campaign, why it's important to them, and to offer a preview of this new resource for our town. First, I'd like to welcome Andy Hersom.
Thanks, Suzanne. Great intro to what I think is quite possibly the most important and valuable initiative in our town's history. By way of introduction, I'm Andy Hersom. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm a longtime resident of New Canaan and proud that my family has resided in the community for over 100 years. I'm also the executive director and founder of Recoach, New Canaan-based Recoach, which helps individuals initiate and sustain recovery from drugs and alcohol. After growing up in New Canaan, I left for about 20 years to pursue a successful career in New York media and raised my family in Darien. I returned to New Canaan about 6 years ago and I decided to get sober. I decided to, nothing against Darien and the Blue Wave, but I returned to New Canaan because this community, more than any other that I know of, has an abundant world-class resources to help all behavioral health needs, especially alcohol use issues. But for the most part, a lot of these resources, aside from like the amazing facilities at Silver Hill, a lot of these resources are just not obvious. In large part, the reason why, knowing that New Canaan had the resources it did is because I knew a lot of people in town. And I found out that in the last 6 years or so, that these resources aren't obvious because of the stigma surrounding behavioral health issues. It's one of the reasons why I think this initiative is so valuable. I've had a front row seat in my role at Recoach to see how COVID has impacted our community. From the beginning of March of last year, quickly became apparent that fear of COVID, the isolation, was leading people to despair and overuse of alcohol and prescription drugs and some illicit drugs. One of the things that folks like myself and others got together to figure out what can we do to help get people the resources that they need. So we started New Canaan Recovery Corps back in March as a group of highly trained volunteers to help those people get initial recovery services for those folks specifically in the town of New Canaan. Couple of things else. What we found is that this pandemic within a pandemic is not going to slow down anytime soon. I think we all feel like with the vaccines coming around with COVID that that feel like we're turning a corner. What I can tell you from my professional opinion is we haven't turned. We're nowhere near turning the corner on the behavioral health issues that COVID is leaving in its path. That's why I'm really proud to be in a town like New Canaan and part of an organization like the Canaan Community Foundation that is doing something about the stigma, which is the #1 barrier to people getting help. When my great-grandfather started the New Canaan Advertiser, he coined that New Canaan was the next station to heaven. And unfortunately, there is a great percentage of our residents that are living in the next station to their own personal hell right now. And thankfully, by us as a community, really talking about these issues and helping others is really going to help us to get those people the help they need. And with that, I'd love to be able to introduce my friend Mia Handler, New Canaan's Director of Behavioral Health.
Hi, thank you so much, Andy. So I am Dr. Mia Handler. I am the Behavioral Health Director for the town of New Canaan. I also serve as the Director of Psychiatry for Silver Hill Hospital, both in New Canaan, obviously, and I've been at Silver Hill now for about 10 years in various capacities as a psychiatrist. And one of the, I also wanted to add, I grew up in Fairfield County, and I was pretty sheltered from all mental health needs. And it has been part of my exploration as an individual, as a friend, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, a sister, to see, where these needs kind of erupt and to be able to help connect people with services. At Silver Hill, to be able to see people on an individual basis when they come in and are in need of acute services, and to be able to sit with them, listen, hear what they're going through, feel like they can gain a better understanding of what they're going through themselves, give them education, and help them kind of forge that path to recovery. It's so rewarding for me in my role as Behavioral Health Director for the town of New Canaan, to be able to see, just as Andy was mentioning, the magnitude of services that exist in New Canaan to address mental wellness is astounding. I don't know of any other town that has the resources that it does. And to be able to have the New Canaan Community Fund launch the campaign of Let's Talk About It New Canaan, and really make those resources available to people. Education, when I am able to join with other forces in New Canaan and other organizations and do educational programming, that's rewarding in of itself. But what's even more rewarding is afterwards, the people who come and talk to you and are looking for, a little more clarity on a subject, or, a direction in how they can seek resources. That is by far the most rewarding part of my job all around. Again, as Andy was pointing out, mental health needs are not going away. Mental health issues don't discriminate. If you broke a leg, it doesn't discriminate. Everyone can break a leg, right? And to be able to destigmatize it and talk about it and not have it be something that people take on as some sort of shame, or something that they have to hide away. To bring it to air, to be able to get treatment, and to be able to become stronger because that's something that you've been able to struggle with and to overcome. That's, I think, where we need to go. And I'm really proud to be part of this campaign. So with that note, I would also like to introduce my friend Judy Phillips, who's the Executive Director of New Canaan Cares.
Thank you so much, Mia. As Mia shared, I'm Judy Phillips. And I joined the team here at New Canaan Cares as the Executive Director back in September of 2020. It was a unique time, to say the very least, to be joining an organization like Cares, but it was also kind of the perfect time because we're in the middle of a pandemic where the programs and services we provide are needed more than ever. So I am so excited, and we at Cares are thrilled to be supporting the effort of Let's Talk About It New Canaan, because with the work we do here at Cares is based on the belief that behavioral health affects almost everything we do, from the way we parent to our friendships, through the way we behave as employees, to how we give back to our towns. So we cannot thank enough the New Canaan Community Foundation for spearheading this effort alongside the New Canaan Police Department and the incredible list of community partners. For those of you who are not aware, New Canaan Cares roots stem very much like Let's Talk About It New Canaan, from the need to address drug use and abuse here in town. We were founded back in 1979 in response to specifically teen drug and alcohol use and abuse. And over the years, Cares has grown and evolved, but our core mission stays the very same: to advance the health and well-being of our youth and families. And that's every aspect of health and well-being. We want to strengthen our families, build our community, and CARES listens to the needs of the community and provides opportunities to educate parents, grandparents, our youth. We work on a variety of issues, everything from friendships to screen time to puberty to substance abuse, using lectures, community conversations, podcasts, and leadership programs. And so much of what we do is based on our community partnerships like this with Let's Talk About It New Canaan. Because we think the more we talk about it and the more we normalize things, the easier it comes to address the uncomfortable topics. The easier it becomes to find the resources we need. If your child is struggling, or if you as a youth are struggling, you know where to go to find the resources to get the help that you need. And it's not, as Mia said, we're destigmatizing what people have classically not wanted to have the conversations about. It should be something that we as families and community members talk about in our homes on a daily basis. And as difficult as the pandemic has been for all of us, one thing that it's really highlighted is the need for self-care, to address our behavioral health needs, to check in on our neighbors and then be there for one another. And foundationally, Let's Talk About It New Canaan is providing a greater ability for all of us to do that. When we see someone else struggling, we know where we can turn. We know where we can identify the community partners that might be able to assist in this effort. So again, thank you so much to everyone, but especially the New Canaan Community Foundation for bringing us all together to address this. And I'd like to turn this over to someone who is key to this effort and maintaining our website, and to Christine Brown.
Thank you, Judy. Hi, my name is Christine Brown. Before we proceed, I'd like to invite everyone to place their feet flat in the ground if you're able to do so. And acknowledge your breath with a full inhale and relaxed exhale. This is a technique I frequently use to ground myself and slow things down. Presenting to you today is not an area where I feel super comfortable. So I wanted to share with you in real time a do anywhere, practical, and effective strategy to slow any type of feeling that you'd like to down. I grew up in New Canaan and attended our public schools. I have extensive personal and familial experience with regard to behavioral health and the many levels of intensity it can encompass. My primary role at New Canaan Police Department is managing the technology systems that law enforcement utilizes. I have also had the privilege of initially creating a website for substance abuse tools and information, and now with Let's Talk About It NC, expanding the voice to include the root causes that result in the consequences of the maladaptive behaviors and potential substance misuse. This expanded voice really stretches things out and aims to create a connected and inclusive umbrella for all of us to step under, no matter the ability or disability, to access services within our community, nearby or across the country, and make it not only cool and comfortable to talk about it, but an essential piece to moving you closer to where you want to be. I am also an EMT with New Canaan EMS. My personal and familial experience, coupled with working at the police department, living with an officer, and as a member of New Canaan EMS, has really created a unique perspective with which to authentically operate from in creating this awesome resource for the New Canaan community. Before we highlight some of the pages on the website, I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge some of the services the police department offers as it relates to behavioral health. Our current chief, Leon Krolikowski, was the driving force behind creating the Director of Behavioral Health position that we so value in MIA, as well as in past directors. In addition, we have a group of 10 officers, varying in rank and experience, who make up the crisis intervention team. This team received 40+ hours of training from Louise Pyers at CABLE, which stands for Connecticut Alliance to Benefit Law Enforcement. Each of our 3 shifts has at least one, and most times 2 of these officers on at a time, who can respond more effectively to needs associated with the behavioral health call. Members of this team also conduct follow-up wellness checks to ensure the residents of New Canaan are referred to appropriate services they might not have previously been aware of. The crisis intervention team also carries a behavioral health resource card, which was created in collaboration with our partners to provide family members or anyone who may be involved with the behavioral health incident. I'll show it to you quickly here. And you can also find it in our lobby. So let's take a look at a few pages. With reference to a spotlight topic, which we'll have periodically. This month is, or at this time, it's connection. Go back to the home page. And scroll down. We have various blogs to resources in town, as well as nationwide resources and pieces myself and our contributors have written for you to explore. Further down, we have our incredible team of partners, which is ever expanding. And at the bottom is our tagline that we use on the Instagram page, which is demystifying and destigmatizing info to help you lean into what mental, behavioral, and emotional health and intelligence looks like in New Canaan. We really want to unpack, make people feel comfortable, take the mystery out of it by sharing with one another and accessing resources. And hopefully, in part, you'll do that here. Next, we will, we will go to who are we? This page really explains and elaborates the tone that we aim to blanket the site with. So there's some welcome information, our mission, next, we'll go to find help. So on this page, you'll find 911 and other 24/7 options to use in a crisis. Please never hesitate to dial 911. We would always rather you call than not. So there are some more options that our community may not have known about, including Andy's. As well as further down, we have nearby and nationwide help. These categories will likely be expanded, but for now, we've separated them, not separated them, but just parse them out as behavioral health and substance misuse. Everything is connected, but there may be more of an acute need to access substance misuse resources than behavioral health and vice versa. So we'll click on nearby behavioral health resources. And here we have a list of either people in New Canaan or nearby in Fairfield County. All of these websites are vetted. Some are partners, some are not. Some have spoken in our schools. And we'll go to nationwide behavioral health resources. There are so many great resources out there. So we really try hard to focus on ones that can really speak to you. So we have some of them here. Further down, you'll find Looking for a Therapist, which is a great resource if you're looking for a therapist, as well as the SAMHSA treatment search provider. how to tell if you or someone you care for might have an emotional health issue, which brings us to our Take a Look Within page. The quote on this page by Maya Angelou is a hefty one. It can take a lot of emotional investment to appreciate its profundity, and it directly relates, in my opinion, to the spectrum of behavioral health, in that we may not all experience the world in the same way, but that we do all experience the world in a way, and that in this experience, we can walk side by side instead of above or below one another. And lastly, for now, sorry, there are some questions. It's not necessarily a scale. If you answer yes or no, it's just providing insight into perhaps you need more support. And so we'll go to emotional health and insight. Again, we have Maya. She's one of my favorites. And this page, there's a special way to watch a timeless interview by Bill Moyers of Maya Angelou, as well as learning more about how valuable vulnerability can be. And then we have some playful cards further down with some statistics. They flip. Burnout is a really relevant topic right now. And I thought it was interesting to share that most people, 84%, most people who are burned out and disengaged have jobs with low demands and low resources. They're not overwhelmed by the stress of the job, but hopeless at the lack of opportunity. 64% of people who are burned out and have engagement in their job position have high demands but low resources. These people are overwhelmed by their jobs, by what their jobs require of them, but do not have the necessary support to prevent burnout. And each of these will take you to more information on it. Another great one is the youth and substances. Every year that substance use is delayed during the period of adolescent brain development, the risk of addiction and substance abuse decreases. Early to young adolescence is the most critical risk period for young people being initiated into substance abuse or misuse. 70% of youth who try an illegal drug before age 13 develop a substance misuse disorder, compared to 27% of youth who try an illegal drug after age 17. So there's a lot of great data here to explore. And so those are a few pages to highlight for now. Please check back often. We will be consistently updating content and keeping the site fresh. Please also engage with our Instagram page, Let's Talk About It NC. Here you'll find some of the same content and an additional bunch of specific virtual resources, book and film recommendations, meetings, general inspiration, and promotion of local events with many of our partners. So I'll hand it back to you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Christine, for that great overview. But most especially for partnering with us and doing all the heavy lifting on the back end to bring Let's Talk About It New Canaan to fruition at long last. This was such a great conversation for our community to have and an important first step toward destigmatizing behavioral health challenges, especially during a pandemic. And thank you to all of our partner organizations for providing content, because without you, we would have a blank canvas. I hope you will all spread the word and share this invaluable resource widely so we can be part of the change that helps our incredibly special community continue to grow healthier and more connected. Thank you so much for coming today.